Good morning, everybody. Sorry for being late. We had a little bit of a, had to do some bio, do a bio break this morning. So good morning. We got Kegel and Rob C and Papa Way. Good morning. And Booty is here and Martina's here. And we got Lee Marie. You guys bailed on us yesterday, but glad you're here this morning. How was your trip to the cabin? Yeah, so Jeremy and Keela took the day off yesterday and left all of us hanging. But it's good. They need a break too. So we got to see them Tuesday, and then Saturday was a little bit of a break for everybody. I didn't know what to do with my hands all day yesterday. So I printed a whole bunch of stuff and rebuilt the X1 carbon and did some of that. But yeah, so the X1 carbon, that's what we've been working on this week. So when we left off last week, we built the electronic enclosure for the RatRig. This week, I tore apart my X1 carbon. It was having, just some serious issues with banding and the Y-axis, like input shaper that it does was going crazy. And so it was creating like mediocre prints, and I couldn't really understand why. Headed up that way now. Had to pack up some things, get ready so we can. No, it's all good, man. Y'all have a good time. Enjoy each other. But anyway, so when I blasted apart the X1 carbon, turns out one of the belts, the upper belt, was basically shredded. So about half of that belt width, from 6 down to about 3 millimeters, was just missing. It had disintegrated. But I've got over 5,500 hours on that machine, and just running it nonstop, doing the obvious maintenance that you would do, cleaning the carbon rods when it yells at you, doing the lubrication on the lead screws and the Y-axis, cleaning the bed, cleaning the inside of the machine, tried to do the normal maintenance routine stuff. But one of the things that Bamboo Lab doesn't really mention in the documentation that I was able to see is how often you should replace belts. How often should you tear apart all the panels and get down there and deep clean? It doesn't really talk about that. So I decided I was going to get new belts, and I got a new X-axis gantry and some new Z belts, and just tore apart the machine, really deep cleaned it, scrubbed everything down with IPA, used a lot of shop towels, and new belts on everything, cleaned the lead screws really well, lubricated those really well, and then put everything back together. And now it's running like it's new. We even put new idler bearings in the machine. So yeah, belts do break. These had not broken, but they had worn down so badly that they were just kind of unusable and creating terrible shaper graphs. Hey, Iconic Fab, good morning. So that's what we did, and it's printing fine now. I even updated firmware, which I normally don't do. I updated to the newest. The Bamboo Lab released a beta version that makes the screen look like the H2D, but I ended up having to downgrade because the firmware was just giving me problems. It was trying to move out of the build area, and so it was grinding really quick for like a half second when it first began a print. So if you have a Bamboo X1 carbon, I would not update to the newest beta firmware. I would downgrade to the most stable one. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's like 3 back. They've had 2 beta releases. I just went back to the normal full release firmware, and it seems to be working fine. Yeah, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for the shout out. Yeah, so that's what was happening. I even worked on the motorcycle a little bit. It's been getting warm, and I plan to ride coming up soon. So I want to start tomorrow, but yesterday was extremely cold out here. I'm talking like low 50s for no good reason. We just had a cold snap, and it's been nicer today, and hopefully nicer tomorrow. We can start riding the motorcycle to work. So building a lot of things with my time off, and you can tell how long I've been off with the shape of this beard going on. But that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about RatRig stuff, right? So let's look at where we left off and where we're going to get to today. The goal for today is to get through the electronics portion. So we left off right here where it wants us to mount the electronics to the machine. I don't really want to do that yet. I'd rather build as much as possible on the workbench while we have it in a more easily accessible position, and we can rotate that box around and get in there if we need to, take some panels off if we need to. It's a little more difficult for me to work and for you to see if we mount it to the back of the machine. So we're going off script just a little bit, and something that I did was I printed out, so it just wants me to use hardware to mount this to the machine. So basically a lock nut and a screw or a bolt. I printed some washers just using the cylinder tool in the slicer, and then I used another cylinder to cut out a hole. That's a 6mm hole, and it's a 12.5mm ABS washer, 1mm thick. So I made that in the slicer and printed those out. That way I don't damage the panels as much trying to install this. And then I made some for the other side of the washer. These right now are M6 by 12. However, if I need to turn that light down a little bit, if I need to use longer ones, I do have some 16s over there I could use. So we'll see how much that works later. But this is the setup that we're going to work on today. Yeah, so it wants us to put it on here. I'm going to skip that, but you'll see as you get to step 28, it tells you to go to step 37 because the next steps are for mounting this if you were not going to enclose. And it just mounts to that back frame, that back cross beam, and then the vertical at the bottom there. So pretty tidy once you put it on there, and it'd be really good for if you were not going to enclose. This is kind of where we are. We're going to prepare the 24-volt parts. So we got to make some power wires here, do a little bit of crimping and whatnot. So I'll get the tools out for that one, and we'll go through some of these steps. So we're going to make, looks like 8 of these wires. And hopefully all that wiring came in the kit. I did see a bunch of that stuff in there, but if not, we're able to make those because we have additional wire elsewhere. I just heard the H2D finish, so I'm probably going to grab that print. I'm making a top hat for the X1 Carbon. So again, a full update and refresh. We made a lot of little cover panels for keeping dirt and filament bits out of the machine. All right, so that's that. And then we're going to add everything to the board here. So let me grab that print, or at least let it cool down a little bit. I'll put you guys over here, and then we'll get started on building some wiring. One of the things that I needed to do was get everything out of the... Here, I'll show you guys this print really quick. This is from the H2D. It's huge. It's been like a day. This is all PETG. And that's exactly how it came off. Printer still a touch warm, but you can see it's a little bit stringy. I did not dry the PETG, but the wall is really nice. I'll just hit that with a little bit of a heat gun, and that'll clean up very nicely. This is actually my first time doing PLA supports on PETG, and you can see that it's already like starting to come apart. It's just stuck very well to the plate. So I'm not gonna fight with that right now. We'll let that cool down a little more, and then we'll try to remove it. But really nice. I'm just gonna toss that back in the machine. We'll come back to it later. Hopefully I remember. Today is the anniversary for the wife and I. It is our, let's see, 18 years together and almost 13 years married. Tomorrow is 13 years married. So PLA supports some PETG and ADSs again. Yes, I agree. What's the tower for with the same color? Oh, the tower is the wipe tower, Jeremy. So they you wipe into the tower to clear out the stuff. Yeah, so anniversary today, we got to stick to the 3-hour mark. So sometime between 10 and 10:30, I got to roll because we're going to go do things and stuff. We went to Santa Monica on Thursday to spend time with the kids. And today, we're going to spend some more time with them. We went down to the beach on Thursday. It was actually pretty cold out. But we made it work. It was pretty nice. So a little bit there. We're going to do some lunch today with everybody. And wife and I hang out later. Normally we actually celebrate. Thanks, Martin, for the happy anniversary. And Jeremy as well. We usually wait for the kids to go to grandma's house in the summertime, and then that's when we normally will go to do actual celebration. Send some pictures. Yeah, I'll send you a couple photos. Yeah, so we'll get through the wiring side of this. Got the instructions in the top corner. I'm gonna get rid of this case real quick though. But yeah, we went down to Santa Monica. It was pretty nice. My first time being down there. We went to the pier, let the kids ride the roller coasters and the things and stuff. It's more of a like a fair atmosphere, so fair food and that kind of stuff. We ate some seafood at a seafood restaurant, and then picture didn't happen. Ate some seafood at a seafood restaurant and walked the boardwalk. Got to see Muscle Beach and did some shopping, whatever. And we stopped by this little British store, which was kind of cool. They had a bunch of snacks and things and candy and pork pie and pasty and all that kind of stuff. More than happy. And yeah, we had a really good time down there. I did see this trick on the internet with wiring that I want to test out today and see if we can make it happen. I'll show you guys what I saw. And I don't think I can do it with these ones, but if we have a different crimp that we use later on, we'll get down to that. I'm not really liking the color on the overhead here, so I'll make a little bit of an adjustment so that we can see a little better. I feel like the white balance is off. Let me adjust some lighting. You owe Happy money. I think we all owe Happy money. Happy does a lot for us, and he does it ahead of time. And Happy's awesome. Okay. I think that lighting is a little better. We're looking a little washed out. You can actually see what's going on now. But we're gonna crimp some of these to the wiring. And we need to strip a little bit. So these wires did not come pre-stripped like the ones we did last week. So we have the automatic strippers out. We'll just take a little bit off the end there. So realistically, you want, if you kind of measure this out with the red portion, that's roughly how much you want. There's a little bit of a bump that you can see here. So starting at the bump and going towards the end of the red portion, that's how much wire you want to strip off. So maybe 5 millimeters or so. And that's what I have these set to. Have those set to about 5 millimeters. And then as I put that on there and strip, we get a good amount. Them zebras. Supposed to run away to Africa with his panels. It must be an inside joke to you all, because I'm not tracking. All right, so that's right about enough. I've got the end of, you could kind of barely see it in there, the end of the wire just kind of barely poking out the end of the crimp. That's what we want. We don't want it sticking out too far and not too little, because then you're not grabbing anything. We'll do that, and then we'll use our big crimpers here to mash down on this one. And you could totally go back and put wire labels on here. And I plan to do that. I got some new wire label stuff for my label maker. And then I had to replace the batteries as well. So like that. And then depending on where we put these, we may we may need to label one way or another. So what I think I want to do is plan ahead a little bit and see what goes where. So we have a bunch of DC wires. So everything going to a power supply, but I want to sort of label the power supply end of it. So if I do need to disconnect something, I know what is what. Okay, so it says you put one wire, red wire with 2 fork terminals at 270. Yeah, they should all be 270. You're going to put one on the power supply and tighten that down, and then the other one goes to the board itself. So what I like to do is on the board itself, take it back to the overhead. On the board itself, ignore this USB. We're going to have motor power, which we're going to use 48 volt for that. So we will ignore that for now. I need to still add that module in here. I'm not really sure where I'm going to put it. It may need to stack on top of the power supply here. And I'll need to make a mount. So they'll be using the 2 screw holes here, and then a bracket to the other side and 2 screw holes on this side. And so that'll create sort of a bridge across here that I can mount that 48 volt power supply to, and then we'll make some custom wiring over to the board. That'll be done on the outside. I still need to make that in CAD, but we'll do that, and then I'll likely mount it right there. For this one though, we're going to run power from here to the power on the board. So I'll just make a label that says, you know, 24 volt or to main board, or yeah, I think I'll say to main board or to Kraken, something like that. And I'll label it on the PSU side so that I know what is what when I disconnect. Go grab the label maker while I'm thinking about it. If you ever did a crimp and solder on those connectors, I normally strip a little more so it slightly sticks out and solder them in. That's a good way to do it as well. I don't technically do that, but you absolutely could do that. All right, so let's get the label maker out, and then we'll put, I'll just write Kraken on here. Make sure you spell it right, or that's going to bother you the entire time that you have your printer. I'm going to print 2 labels, one for the negative, one for the positive. And then, normally I'd put it on both ends of the wire. I don't know that I'm going to do that this time. It just seems extraneous, but you could. You know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. We have the wire shrink in there, I think. Yeah, laminated white tape. Oh, that's not the right tape. Let's turn this off for a second. In here, yeah, so this is the tape portion. This is not the heat shrink that we want. Glad I checked that. The heat shrink we want is this one here. And I love that you can just kind of hot swap it in. This is the one that I like to use. It's heat shrink here. So 5.8 millimeter. This is the one that I use in my label maker. And you can get different colors. I have some yellow as well, so it stands out a little more. But we'll see. And then we just print that. That's cracking you up. I love the puns. You just do solder these. I hear up with a heat gun and pull that red part off, solder it to the connector, and use heat shrink. looks nice. Yeah, it's probably a little tighter on the printer as well. So this does stick out a little bit, especially when you crimp it, like we did on the one that I can't find. This one here, it grows width-wise when you crimp it down. And soldering it does make it stay on. It's more permanent. I've always done it this way, and it's never failed me. It's a lot easier, faster, that kind of thing. And if you suck at soldering, sort of like I do, then doing it this way is easier. We could totally solder and make it nice. We'll just keep that to the side because I'll probably need it here in a little bit. And I just made, oh man, I ran out of tape. So that's not going to work out at all. Look at that. We got to get some more tape out. Cut that. Cut that. And we'll just put this on this wire here. And I'll end up doing this for, I think, all of them. It's my nerdy, stay organized sort of thing. Morning, Nick. Yeah, Jeremy, do you use color match shrink wrap? I have some that is different color and all that, but I don't particularly use it for this stuff because the wiring is already the right color. If the wire was the wrong color, so if negative was not black, I might do that. And I know that's going to be upside down, so I'm gonna do it that way. And yes, I use a torch to tighten that down. And that comes out pretty nice. We just need to do a bunch more of those. And I need to find some more of this tape. Oh, what did I do with it? Let me find some more of this heat shrink real quick. White on black. I know I have more. Yeah, it turns out you can buy these at AliExpress, and it comes with a crap ton. You can get like three or four in a pack for super cheap. This stuff is a little thicker, so I don't necessarily want to use that one. But if that's all I have, that's what I will use. Yeah, so that's another very thick one. I think that's what we're going to be stuck with. So our labels are going to be not as tight on the wire, but that's okay. At least they're labeled. So this one is already used. I'm seeing like a piece of leftover in there. Get out. All right, back in business. Power on. All right, crack in again. This time only the one time. Okay. These wire labels are going to be a little larger. Not thrilled, but whatever. Morning, Prad. Projects in Dad's garage. Out mowing the grass. Stop and pull the stream up. Well, thanks. And check out Lego Therapy. I didn't realize he was here. Label Maker PTSD. Yeah, I've had this one since, man, a long time. 2007, 8, something like that. Yeah, not happy about how thick with 2 C's this label maker is, or these labels are. I like the smaller 6mm. Well, this is all we have, and Amazon is not single day delivery, and I didn't realize this until just now. So here we are. But they shrink down. Let's see how far they go. All right, so let's go this way. The hardest part for me is always like trying to open this thing to put the wire in there. My big fat fingers don't like to flex like that. Keep the stream up while you mow. Hell yeah. All right, just to make sure that we strip this in the same orientation. I'll do it like so. And then this guy goes like, twist that around. Legal therapy, how was your run this morning? I woke up too late to go. Normally I'm up at 4 o'clock-ish, especially on stream days, to get out here, set up, make sure I know what I'm talking about before we get started. I woke up really late. I have not slept a whole bunch this week, and so I got a late start. A really late start. But because I have the extra width, I'm actually going to put that up onto the red portion a little bit before we add the heat. So had I been out here early, we would have prepped a little more on the stream. This label maker would have been set. That shrinks down pretty good. It's just gigantic writing. That font is huge. Very sweaty. It's getting into Florida temps. Dude, we had a cold snap yesterday. The high was probably like 52 yesterday out here. There's one. We need to make, let's make a red one. That way we have a set that we can add as we go. Moist. Can't say moist on the internet. People lose their minds. That is funny though. Moist on the internet makes people lose their minds. Come on. All right, we're getting out these tweezers. I tend to use these a lot because my fingers don't like to work. We'll do that one there. And then we'll do the other one on this side. Like that. All right, so both labels on. And it never fails. No matter how much I think about it, I always forget to do one. And then I have this crisis of, do I go back and cut the connector off, which may or may not shorten my wire too much, just to add the label. And it's always a crisis of conscience when that happens. What I've learned to do instead, and if that happens today, we'll deal with it. But what I've learned to do instead is to swap out the tape to the actual tape portion and label it that way. Not as clean as the heat shrink one, but does the job. It labels the wire. Come on, don't run out of butane. Back in. $3DHP Jerry, good morning. Thanks for being here, buddy. Sorry I missed your stream on Saturday. That's always a hard thing for me to do, is to make it in on Saturday. We were trying to celebrate the anniversary a little bit and did some running around. We did a daddy-daughter dance yesterday, so I took the girls to that. They had a good time. My youngest won a dance-off contest because she danced for like the entire 2 hours. She's the fun one. So she ended up winning like a little Lego set. But we had a good time. Ate some snacks. She had a dance, and that was good for her. Get rid of this. 94 on Friday. Gross. Been his name since at least 2002. He at least gave me MC. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm trying to keep up with chat here. Chick who worked at the gym at Canon, she had a coffee cup that said moist nipple dump. Ah, dump. I don't know why that's a word that you hate. Or nipple. Those are good words. I'm not sure what we mean. Move that power wire. Getting a little bit cluttered here. I'm trying to organize a touch more wires, and these are the two that we want. We're going to bring back the case and add those on really quickly, and we'll just kind of do this as we go. So black wire goes to ground here. So I love that the Kraken is actually labeled already from the factory. That helps out a lot, but I still do like to come in with a Sharpie and make it match. So not permanent, even though it's a permanent marker, but I'll come in and color the terminals as well, only because when I flip up the cover like that, you don't see it anymore, and it's easy to get distracted or confused and forget what is what. So I like to do this. If I had a paint pen, I would prefer the paint pen, but I don't have any more of those. They've dried out since we moved, and I have not gotten new ones. The one to pay attention to is the last one for the bed out. You can see that the positive and negative are actually flip-flop. So on the bed power side here where my thumb is, you see the positive is on the right. But on the bed out where my thumb is, the positive is on the left. So that's something to be aware of, and exactly why I mark the screws themselves with the color that it's supposed to be. So those are all black, and then I have a red Sharpie over here where I do the same thing. Again, these probably won't stay here permanently. It may rub off because I don't know that Sharpies stick to metal. But during the assembly process, it'll stay long enough that you should be able to not get confused and connect things correctly. It's just a little bit of additional insurance to make sure that you don't blow up your $120 Kraken. Unless you like spending money. I mean, I think we all like spending money, but wasting money we don't really like doing. Yeah, but the VD thing has been a thing for a long time. It is still a thing, even now. And many folks don't even know the real name, which is interesting. Okay, so we said power goes to power. I need to get a screwdriver. And I like to just loosen all the terminals. We're going to be populating all of them anyway. So just give them all like 2 turns to open them up. It'll save you from having to do that later. I tried to read ahead in the electronics portion a little bit, and it seems that you're going to populate all of... Not going to do that one. You're going to populate all of the terminals on the PSU, especially with an IDEX. They'll likely, most of them will have 2 wires. That's one of the comments that I read in the documentation, but we'll see. So that one goes there, going to the power side of the board, right? So power negative. Over here, this is going to go to the negative side of the PSU. You'll see, like, I don't color these because it's still labeled here. You could, and I probably should, just make these the color that we need them to be, just to not get confused. Again, cheap insurance, not a requirement. Stop introducing yourself with your government name years ago. Name is for tax purposes only. Yeah. I don't know if that's what... It's just weird because I have several... depends on who I'm talking to. And you can always tell how the person knows you from what they call you. So like your family will call you one thing, and then your coworkers will call you something else, and then your friends will call you something else, you end up with several different names. I don't think that is the case for me, and well, I guess it kind of is. My family will call me one thing, and then coworkers call me something else. You can always tell who knows me from where. So this one goes to positive. Loosen that up a little more. Again, I'm going to, so you have the upper side, so you can see that this is like on the lower side of this red portion. I like to flip it down that way on the first one, especially if we're going to double these up. I want to have room for doubling those, and putting the bottom one down allows you to slide in the top one. So we'll just tighten that to hold it in there, but just keep in mind you may have to loosen that later to get back in there for whatever you're doubling up. So that goes like that. And we'll put the clips on here to hold all these in once we get done with everything. Even your uncle gave up and started using MC. That's pretty good. All right. We still have to make more of these, but I want to see where they go so that we know what labels to make. So we did some for the Kraken. The next ones are for, looks like bed power. We're doing this for both? Yeah, so we're doing power in and motor power. I don't really know where my motor power, the 48 volt board is going to go. So I don't really want to make a wire for that just yet. We looked at this last time. So this is the bolt up board here. And I think I want to mount this. I think I want to mount this sort of in this location, maybe this way around, somewhere in there. I wish I could just use these grid pattern, this hex pattern, as some sort of thing. I'm sure I could clip something in there. I just would worry about it falling off. But I think I want to put that somewhere in that location, and then run wiring from here over to the board is what I want to do. And so I'll just kind of pre-position that, and we'll play with it from there. So the wires that we're going to build are this one here. We'll go from basically the output side of the volt up board over to the motor side of the Kraken. And we'll just probably label these motor power, or MPWR is what I'm gonna name them for motor power. But this will live generally in this location as soon as I make some brackets, and of course those will be available in due time. Someone calls you asking for your legal name, they shouldn't be calling you. A bus bar isn't used. Is that preference, or it's not in the, it's not in the instructions, Captain Kern? A bus bar would be awesome, or at least, you know, Wago, like a Wago mount. And I'm sure someone has made a mod somewhere. I just haven't found it, and I have not made it for myself. Totally could, just haven't. We'll do M power. M. Use ferroful power supplies. That way you can go on either side of the screw. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. The only kind of real hard and fast rule is that you probably don't want to solder without some sort of mechanical connection. Solder can loosen over time, especially when you put it inside of a terminal. like from the heating cycle. So if you're going to solder, you want to crimp first, and then you could solder using something like this, or maybe a different ferrule. But you don't want to only solder. That's what got Reality in trouble back in the day when they used to do it that way. And so what I understand is that the solder can, with heat cycling turning on and off, it can get malleable over time, and then sort of, you know, come out and create problems. I've never seen it personally, but I guess it could happen theoretically. I think we worry about a lot of things that are probably not true. There's a lot of theoretical problems that don't pan out. Yeah, solder fatigue. Thanks, Happy. Yeah, definitely don't want solder fatigue. That's why they don't use it in automotive. Correct. They crimp everything and then they wrap it with wire wrap and tape, which I hate. So this goes this way. And we'll wait to shrink that until we get it on the machine. One of the tracking wires was upside down, which kind of defeats the purpose of labeling if you can't see it. Or at least Honda doesn't. No, I don't think any of them really do. I have not seen that on VW or Nissan or Ford or Chevy for that matter. And I've owned all those cars and worked on all those cars. Not as a pro like you, but as an enthusiast making upgrades and things like that, I've never seen a soldered wire on a car. They're always in connectors and always crimped. You worry about Lego that costs more than 10 cents a piece? I guess if you're buying them by the part, yeah. I know that's going to go down on the power supply, so we can do that one that way. Here we go. Motor power, and then this one we're going to go upside down as well. We'll go that way. I think we're possibly running out of butane on that one. So I'm just going to put this one on, and then we'll worry about connecting the other side of it to that bolt-up board at a later time. I still need to make those brackets. So that'll be an early morning or late night CAD session. Ooh, def label stuff if you had a torch like that. Dude, this is just a, you go to a smoke shop where they sell cigars or whatever. This is a cigar lighter. That's all it is. You put butane in the bottom and you get a torch like that. It also angles. And I got the rose gold version, but you can get whatever color you want. I should have probably gotten like a bright green or a bright orange one so I could actually find it on the desk. But with so many things going on, it tends to get lost in the sauce. But I want to say it was like $10 or something. It wasn't very expensive. And it came full of butane, and then you'd buy a can of it at the same store or even at the Walmart if that's your jam. I think a can was maybe $5 or so. And I've had it for a couple of years and have not had to get a new can of stuff yet, of butane yet. Yeah, so Lego therapy, if I don't know if the internet is dropping in on our conversations or whatnot, but I've been getting all of my algorithms blown up with Lego things now. I blame you. But we did end up going to a Lego store the other day when we were in Santa Monica. Best butane lighter is the Zippo drop-in. If you have a regular Zippo, you just pull out the guts and drop in the butane. I didn't even know that was a thing. You'll have to you have to send me a link for that or something. I didn't know that was a thing for a Zippo drop-in. I'll tell you, I've never even owned a Zippo. Never been a smoker or anything like that. And since I built 3D printers, I just crimped that with no wire in there. It fell out. Be careful with that one. Let's see if it'll still fit back in. Yeah, since I started building 3D printers, yeah, that one's a waste. I just bought this thing and that's all I've been using. But if there's an insert for a Zippo, cool. That works pretty well for what I do though. That's something to watch for, is the wire falling out of your crimp before you get it all the way down. Blame you for the algorithm being full of 3D printing. I guess we're both guilty. We're both guilty. But I think too, you're secretly a 3D printer, you just don't know it yet. You're gonna get your first machine in like the next 6 months. You're gonna be printing your own Lego. Okay, so those are those. And they go here. We'll probably do some for the SSR as well, if I had to guess. And these go in the same positions here. So these are for motor, and we'll put them on the motor side. Pretty straightforward. That, and then this will go to a board that we have yet to install, so I'm just going to leave that free. And then same thing on this side here. That one like that. Come on, there you go. Sometimes you have to loosen that screw a little more than what you anticipated. Make sure these are good, they don't fall out. You don't have to crank down on it, just, you know, finger tight it. Sweet. We've got 4 there. I'm just going to push these off to the side, keep those in place for later. And all that's going to run down through this channel here. Kind of pre-position those and let them flow through so we could still see. And that one's bothering me being upside down. Sweet. Yeah, I'll click that link later. If you could DM that to me, it'd be a little easier. It'd take money away from your Lego habit. But if you think of it this way, it's an investment that you can use to make more Lego at a cheaper cost. So really, you're going to be gaining money coming back. That's that one. We need to make a couple more. I think what I'm going to do is just do one side of these. And we'll add labels as we go. Because I know for sure that I'm making 4. So why not just do 4 ends? This is the tedious part of it though. Building wiring looms. Things like an LDO kit. A lot of the kit builds come with looms. And so you don't have to do all this crimping and whatever. You just plug stuff in. It makes time, saves your time so much by having things already done. So this is how we did it back in the day. When I say back in the day, it's probably 4 years ago. And you can make custom Legos. Yeah, you can make custom Legos. You know that part that you need or you want, but you can't find? Do your own. I did see a channel, and I need to send this to you. I'll messenger it to you. But there's a dude that's building like a Lego castle with 3D printed bricks, and he's doing it like 2,000% larger. So you can actually put a human into this castle that he's building. And he's using the schematics from an actual kit. And he designed all the parts to be able to be printed. And then that's what he's using to build this castle. I'll send you the link for that. I watched that one the other day. I thought it was pretty cool. Nate from the Internet is the channel if you want to look it up in the meantime. He's doing a Lego castle from 3D printing. I wasn't able to remember what machine he was using, but to build some of those bricks, you need a pretty large machine. Okay, let's see. What are we sending these wires to? All right, so we got motor power and board power. Good, good. Part 3 says, what is that? That is bed power. And then I would imagine the next one will be bed out goes to the SSR. And it does, right? So we're using, part 3 here is using the bed power as the switch. So you'll have a 24 volt switched SSR. So we know that we can make labels that are for SSR and bed power. So I'll just do bed times 4. And then we'll do SSR times 4. Spell it right. There we go. We'll print all 8 of those at the same time. That'll allow me to catch up on the chat a little bit. Your uncle works in fiberglass. There's a company he works with that is now starting to build homes based on Lego design. That's cool. There's 3D printed houses now too. So lots of crossover. Maybe we could do like 3D printed walls, and then on the inside, like if you had internal walls that are non-structural, you can build them out of Lego type stuff. I still remember those houses we saw in Albuquerque, that were earthship homes. So they made them from like dirt, mud, trash, glass bottles, tires, and just filled them with dirt and kind of wet it down so it would compact. And that's what they used to build it. I think they're called earth ships. There's a lot of those in and around Albuquerque. Yeah. I just realized that I forgot to tell you guys what all we've been printing. So not only do I just build printers, I actually do print things other than printer parts. But I left all of them in the house. We showed off the thing for the X1 Carbon, so that riser. But also I printed a Mario and a Luigi, and I was playing around with some 3D printed chainmail yesterday or 2 days ago, whatever it is. And then I think the next thing, oh, and I printed a Princess Peach for my daughter. She saw the Mario and Luigi and we're like, Dad, I want a Peach. So we ended up making a Peach. And now I think next I need to print a Bowser. I just need to find a very good Bowser model. If anyone has any ideas for that, let me know. Albuquerque was wild. Shipping container restaurants were cool. I don't remember shipping container restaurants. Yeah, I don't remember that, but Albuquerque was a blur a little bit. I liked it though. I wouldn't mind going back there. The wife does not want to go back there. I considered retiring to Albuquerque. I liked it that much. Maybe we'll buy an Earth chip and live in it. But she didn't really want to go there. She said there's like too much crime or whatever. I guess it is the most featured city on Cops, but I think that's only because they were open to allowing the show to be there, not because there's more crime than anything else. In fact, I learned that Oklahoma City per capita has the highest crime rate. That's wild. Oklahoma City. That could be anywhere, really. I don't know. I liked Albuquerque. I thought it had good culture. I thought it had good food. You could live up near the mountains, and I don't know. It's just a really nice area for me, and I liked it. So anyway, we got 2 red, 2 black, and we just need to strip and crimp the other ends of these. And try to keep the little bits from going all over the place. Make sure they end up in the trash like they should. All right. That's you with Branson. Hey, Steve Builds, good morning. Thanks for being here. Just barely missed your message there. We got all tied up in focused on making some wiring looms. Avoid the blue rock candy. Yeah, Albuquerque is the place where you get your pizza from the roof. Yeah, my wife got to go to Branson. So there, we send our kids out to Little Rock every year to spend time with grandma. And so we send them out early June. They come back late July. You know, worst case, the first week of August. But we've been doing that every year since they were, you know, small enough to even travel. So maybe like, you know, 2 years old, 1 year old, something like that. And last year they went out to Branson. Grandma took them to Branson, and I've never been, but they said it was nice. It's cool, but for me it's Missouri though. Like, who wants to live in Missouri? What is in Missouri? And I say that in jest, obviously. There's probably stuff there, and if you're from Missouri, don't be offended. I'm joking. No, Missouri seems cool. It's like in the middle of everything, I suppose. Yeah, that whole Four Corners area. That's what I'm thinking, Happy, is like Four Corners is kind of cool. Like Albuquerque, you can fly to anywhere in the States. It's sort of like flying out of Vegas. Vegas has a lot of nonstop flights to a lot of the major cities. Albuquerque's kind of the same. It gets hot out there, but it's not like a humid type hot. I think humidity is what I just don't want. I don't mind it being hot in the summertime, but humidity is terrible. We lived in Japan, and it was humid. I've never felt heat the same way than in the Pacific. Spread out from El Paso in the 80s and 90s. Crime is bad there, but unreported. Well, if it's unreported, how do you know about it? Moab place in Southeast is, yeah, Southeast is humid. That's originally where I'm from, is from South Carolina. And growing up, I didn't really notice it. It's all you know. But moving away and then coming back now as an adult, I'm like, why would you choose this? Armpit of DC. Dude, yeah. South Carolina's pretty bad. I know Lego Therapy's got it bad down in Florida. I think Rob is in Florida as well. I don't remember exactly, but I think so. If I got it wrong, let me know. But I remember somebody in the chat said they were from Florida. I don't know how you guys do that. There's a lot of cool stuff to see in Florida and do. But yeah, the Florida man portion of that, I would be a little worried about. Yeah, Rob is. New Mexico is great. Couldn't live there till they get rid of some laws. Not to get political. Hey, so I know a lot of channels avoid political commentary or whatever. I don't. I'm back and forth. I will probably not talk a lot about it. I don't know what the laws are that you're referencing, but I think talking about different law is a fact. It's not necessarily political. It's like talking about the economy right now. Economy is going to get tight here pretty soon, and just saying that as a fact is not necessarily political. I mean, we could talk about the price of eggs, right? Like, that's not political, but it is an economic factor that affects a lot of folks here in the US, and it probably shouldn't, but it is a thing. Humid. You like it, they'll give you hot over cold? No thanks. I will take cold because I can wear a jacket. If it is hot outside, there's nothing I can do about that to get cool. You're just sitting there melting inside of your clothes. I will never choose to have to change outfits 3 times a day because I sweated through my stuff. That's not something I'm a fan of. All right, let's get these on. Finish up this portion of the build. See if I can move some of that up. Get naked? I mean, in Florida, I guess you could, yeah. There's a lot of acceptability for something like that. All right, so first it had us do the bed stuff. So we'll try to stick to the manual. Part 3 tells us bed. So we'll do negative to the bed here. And then we'll do positive to the bed right next to that. And having the colors marked on here makes that a little easier. So again, we're gonna just put that on there snug. We don't have to make it, you know, gorilla tight. Says the man living in California. It's not hot where you are. No, it's hot here. It gets really hot here. It's just not humid here. It is a dry heat out here in the desert. And California doesn't always have to be hot. Tahoe gets snow. And, you know, as you go further north, it doesn't get as terrible. So California has a mix of everything. I think the further south you go, you could get more into that humid air. Like if you're down towards Mexico a little more, which, I mean, we're not far from there. We're maybe, you know, 3 or 4 hours from Mexico. And the beach and all that stuff. We were just down in Monterey. That's like 2 hours away. Or sorry, not Monterey, Santa Monica. Where's the other one? This guy here. This guy goes to positive. These wires are a little bit short here, RatRig. I hope we didn't crimp the wrong ones because I don't see any different wiring that this came with at all. Let's see, that's a tool head. Yeah, so these wires for some of these are a little bit short. So this is where we're gonna probably double up on this first one here. Let's see if I can move this so you can see. Probably gonna double up on that guy there because this wire, as you can tell, is a little bit short. I don't think that's a symptom necessarily of using a Kraken, but it could be. This board is larger than an octopus. But that's probably, I don't know, 10 centimeters or so. 50 millimeters maybe. Too short. So if we had another, I don't know, 5 centimeters on there, 10 centimeters, we'd be okay. But instead we'll just add it to this guy here and we'll double up already. SSR is not going to be a problem. That's a little closer to where we need it to be. So the wiring should be fine, but this bed wire is a little bit short. We're going to add that to where we have the, what is that one? That is the Kraken power. And because we turn that bottom one upside down, it makes it a little easier. I think what I will do, bed is there, Kraken is there. Where's my Kraken? Yeah. I think what we could have done is we'll just double up both. That way it stays consistent. Instead of having the Kraken on one terminal and then the bed on a different, we'll add bed and Kraken together on the same positive and negative terminals. That way we're consistent across the board. I think that makes the most sense. They both run 24 volt because the bed's just being used as a trigger for that relay. Sweet. So like that. And then we actually have a little bit of slop in there now. It's great. Let's see, Colorado leather is dumb. Man living, yeah. Let's see, Colorado is dumb. Entire life, you can get 100+ degrees and it'd be humid 1 minute and dry on the next. That is weird for Colorado. I've not heard that. You lived in Riverside for a while. Hour and a half to the beach, hour and a half from snow. Yeah, we are not far from Riverside. I'm maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours max from Riverside. Just a little bit to the north there, out in the desert. Yeah, Captain Kern, that's exactly why we need the bus bar. You could probably put one in this area here, or maybe even stick like a Wago terminal mount here and have 2 separate 5-pin Wagos right here. I think there's some room in this area to do that if you were to move some of these mains power out of the way. You could probably get something in there. It does work. It is just a little tight. It's just kind of barely long enough to be able to get in there. You can see that that's kind of at an angle, but they do work. And then the SSR is even shorter, so you're going to have extra that I'm going to loop over to do that. So the bed out will have over here. And so for this one, it's just triggering the SSR on and off. So it doesn't matter as long as it's between the voltage on the thing, on the SSR. So 3 to 32 volt DC is what this one is labeled as. We're tripping the 24 volts, so we're kind of in that range. And I've seen folks that will like wire, what's it called? Wire loom these to make it even nicer. So they'll put it together and have it, you know, black braided or green braided, if I could speak today, through the thing. I'm not gonna do all that. It looks really nice. I don't have the patience for that. I think wire labeling is just fine. So that's what we're gonna do. So when we put the SSR, when we put the relay in here, we made sure to put the switched side of it towards the board because that's what we're going to use for the switching. The other side of it is towards the main, and that is to pull the main power from the PSU here. So keep that in mind. If you had not done that, you'd be flipping this around. You would have room to swing around, but it just, I don't know, it's not as clean. So for this additional wire, I'm just going to tuck this up under the Raspberry Pi. And then when we put those clips on there, it should clean that up a little more. Just tucking that extra wire under the bracket there for the Pi. There's just enough room to slip that inside. Because of the way that we put the labels on, we should be able to see those. Probably unnecessary on the side that goes to the item you're attaching. Pretty common sense what it goes to. But if you ever remove that entire wire and you're redoing everything, it'd be great to know what goes where. So putting those on, and then we can slam that shut. Keeps the fingers from touching that and getting a shock. Yeah, so that is that wiring there. I have a feeling this is going to turn into a mess, and we'll have to go back and clean up some things later. But so far, so good. Go back to our manual, see what they want us to do next. Let's see. We've done that one, and we've done the bed power over to the SSR. Good. All done. What do these comments say? Picture is correct, but very bad. It says crucial, but it says black plug into a positive terminal. Sure. Pay attention. At the end of it, just double check everything. We're good. We double checked all of that. The only ones to really pay attention to are these two here. We'll zoom in on those. So these two right here, you really need to pay attention to. And every time you click on something, it changes. These two connections right here on your board. So this one is for the bed power. So whatever power you're providing to the bed, in this case, it's going to switch your relay. And then your bed out are flip-flopped. The bed out, depending on the heater you have, doesn't necessarily matter. But if your bed out goes to a relay, you're going to want to make sure that the relay has the positive and negative correct. I don't know necessarily if it's going to break anything. I've not had the chance to break stuff, but you do want to double check and get it right. They do seem that polarity matters on those. We did that. Here's the electronics cooling fan. So we installed these the other day. I did not go back yet and shorten those wires at all. I'll do that on the cleanup side of things off stream. But there's a little bit of a jumper that goes to a port somewhere on the board. Again, we are not using an octopus. So for us on the Kraken, this is going to be a little bit different. It's got it going to what would be fan 0, 1, 2, fan 2, and then using a 24 volt jumper there. So we'll go to fan 2 on the Kraken, which looks like this. Fan 2 would be Papa Alpha 2 on the board. I'll bring that back over, and we'll make that change. So starting from your right to the left. I'm seeing now, though, as I move these wires around, I'm noticing like it's probably going to be a little tough to get some terminals in here with that fan being so close like that. We will make do, though. I think once I shorten up these wires and do a little bit of cable management, I think what I'll do is sort of route them up over the top like this. That'll provide just enough space down there to put some terminals in. We may not be able to do ferrules, so it may end up being bare wire, but we'll see how it works out. Worst case, we move the Kraken this way a little bit, which means I'll have to redesign the bracketry, and then we can move it this way a touch. That'll make this wire a little closer as well. There's room in here. Maybe, how much room? You get about a centimeter between the edge of the board and these holes here. So I can move everything this way a little bit and provide some extra room on that side. Might end up doing that and redesigning that part if it becomes a problem. But we'll see. This is the wire they give you to do the jumper, I think. There seems to be two different wires in here. This looks like the jumper wire they want us to use. So we're just going to go from fan 2 over to the board here. And I realize my connections are out of order, so that's fine. They did not provide us a wire label. I'm going to make one. So we'll just call this, what should we call it? Any ideas what we should call this? Bob. We call it Bob. I think we'll call it, I don't know, E-fan, I guess, for electronics fan. Or actually, let's just call it case fan. Well, that is a little bit longer, but it'll be fine. Yeah, we'll call it case fan. What do I do with these? Here we go. Should probably get a better label maker at some point. This is how much waste we're producing times 2 every time we make a label. Seems like a waste of material. And I want to say that should be able to fit through there without depinning. I hope it does. Kind of barely fits in there. Yeah, you make a list and print them all at once. Yeah, I probably should have done that. I didn't really think about it ahead of time. Again, we got a little bit of a late start on the stream this morning, and I did not prep as much yesterday as I should have. I was dealing with some other printer things, trying to get stuff to be to work. Those other projects happening behind the scenes, and those I don't want to say take priority because this is the priority on a Sunday, but when I'm planning for what to do next and things like that, that's less of a priority than some of this stuff. All right, so case fan there. Again, we'll come in and clean up some of the wiring. Maybe we'll clean up some labels or something too. But that works. We'll do that. And there are no jumpers on the board. I'm going to add that. What did I do with those? Oh, in the box. So in here, all our bits and bobs. And these are the jumpers that we need right here. Very nice having a table just off stream that we can do. Print multiples at once saves a lot of ribbon. Yeah, probably should. Probably should. I think I'm gonna install a bunch of these jumpers at 5 volt, and then we'll move them as needed. But I want to see on the pin. I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right pin here. So if I go, let's see. So towards the center of the board is 5 volt. Towards the edge of the board is 24. And these are 24 volt fans. So we'll go towards the edge of the board like that. Yeah, middle is 5 volt, edge of the board is 24, and that's 24 there. And then we'll put the rest at 5 volt. That way, if we get any weirdness, I don't blow up fans. And then we'll move them to the correct position, because I'm not gonna hurt a 24 volt fan at 5 volt, but I'm definitely gonna hurt the fan if I do it in the reverse. I'll just pre-populate all of these with the 5 volt jumper, and then move them as needed. And then also, I don't lose my jumpers. I know exactly where they are. We probably need to put a 5 volt on the USB because I do want to see what that looks like. I never went back, like I said I would, and set up the Rat OS portion of it. I did flash the SD card yesterday and added that into the Pi. I made sure that it could reach my network, but I didn't set anything up. So I do want to run through that and see what that looks like. And there's 7 fans on this thing. That's crazy. One more here. So we've populated all 7 fan ports. or I guess 8 fan ports. And then you have another one here that I believe is I believe that one is PWM control. Sorry, not PWM. No, that's looks like maybe a filament detector. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with how the Kraken works. But we have completed this portion here. It says inserted on the 3rd fan connector. I don't know if that's going to be true. Again, this is built for an octopus. I don't know if that's exactly true for the Kraken, but that's how we're going to do it. Try to stay as close to the octopus setup as possible. And then we'll change the config as necessary, or maybe we unplug things. Okay, so next it has us do the Y in-stop portion. In-stop's already on the V-Core, and we add the wire to that. And then where does the other end of it go? Not sure. Okay, we'll take you over to the V-Core. I'm gonna spin this big dude around. It's probably the I don't want to say worst part, but the crappiest part is that you continually got to move this thing if you want to see what's going on. Make sure it's up on there. It's so wide, it doesn't fully fit. It definitely hangs off a little bit. Okay. Y in stops are on the printer, but I don't know where. Where did I put that? I don't remember installing those on the printer. Did I miss a step? Probably. But you could see from where we are, I did a little bit of work on this yesterday. Move the camera for you all a little bit. We get the PTFE installed. We have the piano wire installed as well. And then something I did was add some guides to the top frame. So these here and that one there kind of guide the PTFE around, and they swivel and whatever to try to lessen the load on the tool head and just kind of move that around the case as it should. I don't have a Y in stop though that I can recall. I feel like I missed that somewhere. It's probably one of those things that I said I was going to do and I would come back to. I don't remember coming back to that. Yeah, there's nothing on the gantry. We'll add that. We'll add that later. I think we could still do the step. I just need to find the end stop. Where is that? Felt like I had an extra end stop in here somewhere. Nope. Guess not. Guess not. VAOC. Huh. We got one more bag here for the tool head. Still not seeing any end stops in there. Some more stuff. No end stops. Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll come back to that at some point in the future. Prepare the wire clips. Okay, we printed them. I hope that's enough preparation. Where does the Y in stop go, though? At the front of the machine? Yeah, I totally did not put that on there. Oh, yeah, I did. Duh, I'm blind. Hey, Patty. Yeah, I did put that on there. Okay, I remember that now. So we just need to put the wire in there and then run that back kind of behind the B motor and then out the hole there. I think I'll wait until we mount the box onto the machine. which probably should be our next step, because then that kind of goes right into where the board is. But I do have that in stop. That's just one of these wirings somewhere. Maybe this pack here. Yeah, so maybe in this pack, this tool head wiring kit. There's a bunch of wires in here for things and stuff. Just don't know what the Y in stop specific wire looks like. Should be a 3-pin. Should be fairly long. Okay, so maybe it's in with the motor wiring. So maybe it's in with that. And then we have the secondary tool head wiring pack there. So it's organized enough, but not organized so well that it like calls out what is in each thing. All right, so if it's going to continue with running things into the box, I think so. Yeah, we probably need to get that box mounted. But before I do that, I definitely want to test the setup on here to make sure that we have that correct. And so what I'm going to do next is connect power to the Pi and see if we can get it talking to the board. So maybe we do a little bit of clipper stuff here. And then we'll put it in the printer. So when you're coming into RatOS and you want to build this, what it has you do is just like any other install of Clipper or anything, you want to download RatOS here. So this is just the image file from their GitHub. If you wanted to go with a different version, an older version, you could do that and then check out the changelog. So I flashed it to a 32 gig card, and I did that yesterday, threw that into the Pi, and then added my Wi-Fi details to the SD card. So once you click on the link, it takes you to a web page that you can then set up. So this is the important one. It says, do not continue to the next step in the setup wizard before updating the software. So you need to update the software first. And if I add power to this Pi, we're just going to do USB. So I add power to the Pi here. As soon as you plug that in, it should start to connect. We saw some lights come on. I'm not sure if you could pick that up on camera. And then I need to add a jumper to the USB on the Kraken. So that should be, let's see, where is this at? Right next to the USB port, which kind of makes sense. 24 volt Pi is faster, right? It is. I don't have a way to connect 24 volts right now, except for, I guess I could plug it in and do that. But if you put 24 volt to a Pi, it's going to blow up. Yeah. So we're going to just power the Pi and the Kraken over USB. And then this cable is a little short. I need to get one that's maybe 6 inches longer. But we can connect it here. That's not getting power. Okay, so I'll get a longer one that is not angled. This is the part that I hated yesterday. I had to unloose the side panel here to be able to get this straight USB cable in. It just sticks out too far, so I definitely need to get a 90-degree cable. But that's what you're going to run into when you're using a different board than what was intended. This one is physically larger, and so it takes up space. Not a lot of room to move the bracketry down this way, and I need to redesign anyway to pull things down. But if I do that, and then I plug this into the Pi, we should be able to get some power. There we go. Good cable, lights on the board. Means we do have power to the Kraken. We have power to the Pi. Let's see if we can connect. All right, so the jumper that I put on is that one right there. It's right next to where your USB is. So 5 volts in, right next to where the USB-C is. 24 volt will help it speed run its existence. Yes. This is an expensive board too, so I'm trying not to do that. This is our IP. And we're connected. Errors are to be expected because nothing is set up, right? So if I look at this, we've done all that. I've gone through and updated over here. So nothing to update. We've done all of that yesterday to alleviate a little bit of potential pain today. Once that refreshes, we'll see that should be good to go. There's nothing else. Really, really fast. Ooh, look at that. We have a package upgrade, so we can do one of those. I can hear my kids in the house screaming and yelling. They're getting anxious. Got about an hour, hour and a half left to do things and stuff. All right, so that finished pretty quick, 12 seconds, and updates are good to go. So following the instructions, right? We flash the card, do the things. You log in here, it has you run your RatOS. Initially, when you load it up, you're gonna have 2 separate RatOS cores. So one is gonna be RatOS like normal, the other one is gonna be the RatOS core. It tells you in the specific instructions you want to run RatOS first, and then RatOS configurator second. If you only see the configurator, which is the newest version, the one that's on there now after I updated, you can go ahead and update that. And then you do all of your update components. So basically everything else you can update later. Now it says go through the wizard part. And that's what we're going to do. We'll see real time how user-friendly this is. But based on what you see when you first log in, you have a configurator on the left side. And that's what it wants us to use. So once I click that, all right, Lego Therapy, see you, man. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you always. Once we do that, we come into the setup. We are building the IDEX. It's a 300 version. So you just select which one you're going to build. That's pretty easy. And then they have other printers as well. So you could do your hybrid or your normal. You have a V-Chunk that you can build. You have the V-Core4 if you're doing that, or IDEX. You can build a Pro, which is their original V-Core. And you can even do the Minion. And it seems like they're supporting other printers as well. So the V0, the 2.4, and even the Mark III in the Mini. So if you want to use RatOS on something else, it seems like there's some support for that. We're going to pick next. And then we know that we're using a Kraken, but you can use, looks like a lot of different boards, everything from different Mantas to different Octopus, and then even some PhysTech and LDO stuff. But those require tool boards, is what it looks like. We have the Kraken. It says a tool board is required. We have those on the machine. So we'll click the Kraken and go next. How do I want to flash it? Automated is unavailable. That kind of sucks. But the recommended is manual. So we'll do manual with DFU. And it says waiting for DFU. Connect the board to the Pi. We have done that. And then we press and hold the boot 0 and press the reset button and then release boot 0. I'm going to do that really fast. Again, I'm going to use my, we do have power to the board, so I'm going to use my ceramic tweezers to do so they don't short anything. I realize it's only 5 volt, but just being extra careful. The buttons are here. So the boot 0 is the middle button. Press that, press the reset, and then let go. I saw a tiny red light come on. Not sure if that picks up on camera very well, but there's a tiny red light on. And that tells me that it's in DFU mode, sort of right there. Go back to the configurator. That button has changed over to flash. So I'm just going to click the button. We'll see what happens. That's pretty scary. As soon as I clicked the button, the air conditioner came on next to me. It sounded like something was powering up. It's pretty funny. Hey, Stephen Machado. Yeah, we built the sort of cage for all of the electronics. We've done some of the wiring. I need to mount it to the back of the printer and then run all of the wiring from the motors and end stops and tool heads and all that stuff back to the cage. I feel like this is taking a while. I don't know how long it should take. Okay. So just a few seconds there. Kraken detected, checking the version. This is so far easier. Most recent release for RatOS had an issue, but we'll see if you do. I read that as well. I figured we would just press forward and see what happens. Kraken detected. Proceed to the next step or flash again. I don't know that I need to flash again. I think it was fine. Ooh, now it wants us to select our tool boards and probably flash those as well. I don't have those connected, so I don't know that we'll be able to finish the setup until we install this on the back of the machine, connect a bunch of other wiring. Going back to the electronics, though, if I go back to step 1, it talks about flashing everything. Yeah, so prepare the control board. Heavily recommended that you flash your board and make sure it's detected in the configurator before you plug in your stepper drivers and start connecting your wiring. That's the step we're doing right now. So we're going back to step 1 to do this. But it's having us do this. I know that I'm using 1.2 boards because I have the box right in front of me and I can see that. I'm the first person I've seen use plastic or ceramic tweezers to hit the reset button. Yeah, well, I've seen other people short their boards as well. I don't want to be that guy. I prefer to err on the side of caution. I'm always cautious around electronics. I don't want to break anything. And to date, knock on wood, I have not blown up boards. And I've built about 23 machines. Could, but it would ask where everything is hooked up and where. Yeah, I know. And that's what I'm thinking of as well. But I do like that they have support for other tool boards, so you can really customize what you want. Everything from an SB20 to 40 all the way through some Mellow branded stuff, or even Orbitools, which I do have a pair of those. I had considered adding them to this machine, but we are where we are. It wants us to do manual flashing on these as well. And then this is where we're going to get stuck because it's not going to allow us to finish until we connect everything to the board. I wonder though if I could just connect a USB cable. Make sure the board is powered on. You can use USB power by placing a jumper on the V-bus pins. So I think I can. I think I can just sort of slide things over, connect via USB, and flash these boards at least. I think that's an option. And in the end, you'll most likely go through it all again anyway, so far more efficient to just stall it and go on to finish later. Dealer's choice. Yeah, appreciate it. I think I do have some long USB cables, though. I think. So I'm probably going to risk it for the biscuit and see if we can just connect with a long cable and flash them. I'm looking for a cable as long as the one that I have for the Pi Power. And here we go. Yes. All right. So I do have these really long USB cables here for this intended purpose. So it's a USB-C to USB-C, but I have adapters that I can take the C to an A and just plug that into the Pi. And these, I think, are like 10 feet long. but it is for exactly this purpose, connecting things from the Pi to the board so that we can flash what we need to flash. So there's it's got a 90-degree end on one end, and the other is a straight side, like so. I'm going to throw some adapters on here to make sure that we can connect. Ooh, I don't have the right adapter. I thought I did. Let's see. I thought I did. Maybe we go the opposite direction a little bit. Give me 1 second, folks. I gotta find a good cable. I swear I had adapters for this. I must have used them in builds or something. I don't see them now. Nope. Okay, doing the audible here. We're gonna use, where'd it go? I have that. So I have this adapter that takes it to a USB-C, but it takes an A, so I need an A to A. And I thought I just saw one, but I could be mistaken. Just have so many things all over the place. Okay, here we go. So this is like a extension, which this might work as well. We can just extend out our shorty USB-C cable that came with the board and use that. And that should work. So we'll take, where's the shorty at? So we have the shorty USB-C, and we'll use that in here. This will go to the Pi and the USB 3.0 port. So the blue port's on the Pi, and then we'll plug this into the tool head on the over here. I do know that I need a jumper to make this work. I need to add that onto, does it tell me? So in the instructions, there's our boot button, there's our reset button. Where is our USB-C? Oh, right above it. So right next to the board, there should be 2 small jumpers that allow power to come in. I will need the jumper from the box. They use a smaller jumper than you use on the Octopus or Kraken. And because they're so small, they're a little bit longer, which makes them a little easier to grab. We'll add that to here to see if we can get power to the headboard. Yep. Saw some lights happen when I did that. All right. So we do have, you can't see it from the angle that you are, but there's some light on the board, which means that that does have power. We just need to put it into boot mode like we did on the other one. So I'll get out my tweezers again. The diag pen size jumpers for Octopus will do it. Yeah, I don't have the Octopus. I do have the Kraken. They use larger jumpers, but the board came with a bunch of connections and there are jumpers in there. They are the right size. So, for this one, again, it says hold the boot button, press the reset, and release the boot button. So using our 2 tweezers again to get in here. I'm not seeing boot buttons on this version of the board though. Looks like I'm using 2 different boards, honestly. One board has boot buttons, so the left tool head here, your right, has boot buttons on it. Your left tool head board does not have boot buttons on it, from what I can see. So how do I boot? Maybe that's different. So even though they are both US version 1.2s, this one does not have boot buttons. This one does. That is strange, and it makes me think that these are not the same. Oh, so this is a 1.0. This side is a 1.0. This side is a 1.2. So, with that said, we'll flash this other one, then we'll go back and flash the 1.0. Because I think they are different. As far as the method goes. There's that. And then we have the boot button, and it's tight to get in here. Boot button is at the top. Reset button is down low. And we should be good. So going back to our Chrome tab, we could see that the flash button is now green for the 1.2. We can flash it. Am I still muted? How am I muted? I can see my stuff go. I feel like I'm not muted. I can see my audio going just fine. All right, so that's that one. DFU not detected. Okay, there it goes. Audio's fine, yeah. Hey, Digital Dragon. What's up, Luke? We're flashing two headboards this morning. So we've got one that is one way, one that's the other way. Let's see, make sure your tool board for the left tool head is flashed and up to date. Yeah, so we did the wrong one there. So over here, it's a different one. I think we'll go back. We'll flash it with a different thing. Anyway, so T1 should be the 1.2. Next, it's going to be this way. We'll put it back into DFU mode, and then we'll have to go back and do T0. Okay, there's that. Flash that one. And then we'll reflash T0 with the other settings. I totally messed that up. Oh, got it on your side? Yeah. It's all good, Steve. All make mistakes, and I definitely make a lot of them. I was supposed to even install the hybrid side of the belts on this thing. I never even got to it. I haven't touched this machine since last week. I printed a few parts, looked at the Raspberry Pi yesterday, and that's basically all I've done on this particular machine. I do really like that RatOS does all of this behind the scenes on its own, and I don't have to go through all the setup that I would do on a normal Clipper install. Okay, so we'll go back to T0. We'll flash this one correctly. I do believe it is the 1.0. I can sort of barely see inside the board that there's a label there, and it tells me that it's a version 1.0. So it's this guy here. We'll do that manually. Yeah, so that's the problem. The boot button's on the back side of the board, which means I need to take the board off of the printer to be able to hit these buttons. Press and hold the boot and then the reset. So I need to pull that down to be able to hit those buttons. That's why I couldn't see them. And then I can remove the jumper off of the other one. We'll place it onto this guy so I don't forget. So it's kind of cool. We get to see how to do this both ways. But if you were ordering your own kit today, you'd probably have two of the same. I had So when I ordered mine, I didn't get any electronics. I just got the wiring. I knew that I wanted to use my own main board, and I wanted to use my own tool head boards. I was just torn between the Orbitool and what RatRig provided with their PBB42, and I wasn't sure which one I was going to do. So I ended up having a mix of boards here, but it's cool. We get to show both. So now I'll just insert this USB into this board, and I realized that's a little hard to see. All I did was remove the board. We can unplug this motor, it'd be easier to see. I just removed the board from the printer. You can see the red light is on. We do have the jumper here in place. The boot and stuff are on the back side. A little easier to do with the fingers, but harder to access after the fact once the toolhead board is installed. But we just hold the boot button there, press the reset, and let it go. If I look back at my Chrome, it's already recognized as being available. And so once we click flash on there, it should take it over. You did the toolhead using the plate on your open 3.1, but can't go further as it's open, have to pull the rails and put them on the top, etc. And just not going for that unless it's a complete reboot. Oh, you're talking from the EVA 2 over to the new, what they're calling the RatRig toolhead. I mean, I think it's a worthy upgrade. I like a linear rail on the top like that. It does seem to be more supported. And the center of mass is a little better instead of hanging off the front of the rail. But I mean, if you don't want to do all of that work, I can understand it. It would not be just as easy as rebuilding the tool head. All right, so flashed, good to go. Next. We've already done T1, so we'll hit next on that. Next. T1 should be good to go. Okay, let's see. Select your printer hardware. We have not a Rapido. We have something else that doesn't look to be on the list. So we'll see how we can go forward here. You think you did all your electronics flashing on the bench, tool heads and all? We are sort of doing that, Luke. Like, I just have the tool heads on there to make sure that the length for the tool head wiring, like the hot end heater and the thermistor, were the correct length. So it's easy just to take a couple of screws out and flash that. All of the electronics are here on the bench. So I have the, you can kind of see it here. I have the electronics case on the bench still. And we have long USB cables going to the different components to do it that way. For the tool head, they are both PT1000s. I'm using 0.5s, I think. Let's see if I can see that. They are Undertaker nozzle, tungsten nozzles, and they are both 0.5. Yeah. I'll just call it an ultra high flow. I don't know that that matters. RatOS uses your toolboard's alternative pull-up resistor setting. Toolboard has an option to use a separate pull-up resistor for PT1000. It's usually done by inserting a jumper. Make sure you read the documentation for your board on how to enable the alternative resistor, or you'll get a temp errors in Clipper. I don't care about temp errors. I can see that they say PT1000 on them. I'm not sure what jumpers I would put on there, though. One has sort of like dip switch marking on it. This other one, the 1.0, doesn't have anything. So we'll deal with that later, I think. What am I using for extruders? I got Orbiter 2.5s. I think that's the same as Orbiter 2. Probes, we're not using that. We're going to use the beacon because it is the best. Your XN stop is on the 1.0 T0. The Y in stop is a physical in stop going direct to the Kraken. You could use sensorless if you wanted. Part cooling fan. Used on fans that have no dedicated PWMs. I think these are all going to be stock. I haven't strayed too far from that. Part cooling fans or that, yeah. Digital PWM is for fans that have a dedicated PWM signal wire. Requires a 4-pin fan. So they are both 4-pin fans. They are the 4028s, and they have 4 pins on it. So, but I do remember from the documentation that I'm plugging that into a 3-pin connection. So maybe it's correct at input voltage PWM here. So while it is a 4-pin fan, it's using only 3 pins back to the Kraken from the instructions that I remember. Same for the hot end fan. That's just your normal 2-pin. Mine ran to the main board. Yeah. Input voltage. Yeah. Thanks for confirming, Luke. That's what I'm thinking as well. It ends up being a 3-pin, even though the fan itself has 4 pins. So input voltage for both. We have integrated accelerometers on both X and Y, so we'll use that. T1 is basically the same copied over. So make sure these are all good. Yes. Nozzle is a 0.5. I like that you can set individual nozzle sizes, although I don't know that your slicer can take advantage of it. But if you had a different nozzle size, you should be able to set it in here from what I remember. They are not CHT. I would love for them to be. I wonder if we could enable it anyway. Like the firmware doesn't know what your nozzle is, but we have tubes in here, which are ultra high flow. So if I put a CHT on here, that would just kind of unlock additional flow. So let's do that. That way we maximize the amount of flow that the tube can provide, especially with a 0.5 nozzle on both sides. Both are PT1000. Same orbiter. Probe is going to be beacon. End stops are physical to the tool board, physical to the Kraken. Part cooling fan. Should be input voltage because it should be the same as the other one. And then your hot end fan is the same. Part cooling fan is different though. So up here, we've got input voltage PWM to the Kraken. But maybe that's because it's a different tool board. Then over here, and we can do that on the actual tool board. Integrated, sure. Electronics, all right. Controller fan. This is for the 3 fans that are inside of the case. They're going to be the input voltage PWM. That's for the 2 and 3 pin fans. That's what we have. Motion. Configure your stepper and driver settings. I like advanced. Let's do it. What does simple offer us? Oh, just fewer options. Motor slot. We get to pick from the list. I think we need advanced because our X motor, and we can, yeah, so you have a little bit more control on where you're adding your steppers. X motor is correct. The stepper, I didn't change anything. I'm using what they came with, and they are the 2504s. Yes. They are the AC, I believe. They're AHs. I don't know that that matters. There's not an option for that anyway, so we'll stick with that. Voltage, we're actually going to run it at 48 volts. We're just not there yet. Current, you could probably go a little higher, but I think 1.1 is safe for now. Driver tuning applied. RatOS preset applied automatically. Am I setting up this for both? X-axis motor for the right tool head. Yeah, so one for the left, one for the right. On the right, it's basically the same. Oh, I can't do that. Dual carriage. The X-axis motor for the right tool head, located at the right rear of the printer. X-axis motor for the left tool head, located at the rear left of the printer. Oh, well then this should be motor number 2. All things are the same. This is going to be here. X-axis. It's just confusing that they would call both of the motors X-axis motor. So 1 and 2, and then for your Y stepper, this is confusing. The left Y motor used for Cartesian Y control in the hybrid Core XY, located at the rear left of the printer. So that would be the so they should all run at the same current then. Yeah, that's a little bit confusing, but I think we're good. Zeros, I want to say, are not 48 volts. That's one thing I don't know is which. So I think only the first 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are powered with 48. 5, 6, 7, and 8 might be 24. Probably need the manual out for this to make sure we don't blow things up. All right. Yeah, so high voltage, we're going to do that. These are all here. But on this particular one, it does not tell me where it is. So let's look at the PDF version of the manual. Let's get you guys over to that. Add in here. Add new. I was just trying to get you a good PDF version here. There we go. Size of the screen. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at. I'll move this over here. Single page. There we go. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at. I was looking at the powering on how we're going to power the Pi once we get to that portion. But what I need to know is what voltage do the motors run on? Okay, so here we go. This is what I was looking for. So I could run all of them on 24 to 60, up to 3 amp on the smaller 5 through 8. Okay, so I'd be good running everything at 48 volt. That's what I wanted to make sure of. Because on some boards, something like the Leviathan, you could do your A and B motors on 48, but the other motors are the 24 without any way to select either low voltage or high voltage on this particular board. I was concerned that I'd apply the wrong voltage to the wrong motors, but it looks like all of them are 60 volt capable. if anyone sees anything wrong with that, let me know. But what I can tell from right here, everything should be 60 volt capable. Cool. All right, so that means these Y motors are going to be different. So my X's can be 1 and 2. My Y's can be 3 and 4. That makes sense. Then we'll have a space on number 5, and then we can use 6, 7, and 8 as our Z motors, and those will all be at 48 volts as well, and we can use the recommended preset for those. So I like that you can just click in here and it'll apply the setting that you want. Makes it super easy. And then for our extruders, we definitely want those at 24 volt. It doesn't even allow you to select anything else. So it sort of keeps you safe, and it keeps your current pretty limited to that 70% mark, which is great. Just want to verify all of that stuff. And that should be it for motor setup. Now, I know there's a way to go back into the config and change this a little later, but right now it looks pretty good. We'll see how it works out. Cool. There's warnings on T0. You need the pull-up resistor. Okay, we'll deal with that later. And then same thing for the other tool board. That's because we disconnected it though to flash the original one. It's probably going to give us some errors in Clipper, and that's fine. We'll confirm and save all of that. Now I can continue in the next step in the documentation, which is here, and that's the initial configuration side. So we'll just open mainsail here. We can see that we're going to expect some errors like temperature errors, board connection errors, that sort of thing. Get rid of that. Come back to the config. Sweet. So you can open that, navigate to the machine, the list of files, print config. At the very top of the list, you'll see the includes. That's all the stuff. I do want to see what that looks like. So we'll go to machine, look at printer config, and yeah, this is all the stuff that it configured for us. You can override some stuff, and it talks you through how to do that. All of the stepper things seem to be configured already for us, which is pretty cool. They're using aliases for all of the motor stuff. So it's just called tool board T0 extruder dir pin. So there's probably an alias file somewhere. If I look at my rat OS config, yeah, these are all the aliases. So your motor 1, it's already got the pin out in there. It's just calling it by its actual name, which makes it easier to config, but you have to know the exact naming scheme that they are using if you want to go back and change things, because you're not using pin assignments anymore. You're using the name of the thing. You could put the pin in there, but then you may get like duplicate pin errors. So cool. They're doing it all the way through, a bunch of includes and things like that. So pretty good. Yeah, we're not able to connect the things. We'll go through that one by one. Sweet. So here is where I think we pause and we go back to our electronics and we install the case on the back of the machine. So right about step 27 here. Right. So I'm going to shut down things on the Pi to make sure we don't corrupt anything. Make sure you're always shutting down with the button here in Moonraker or Mainsail. I'll give that a few seconds till I see the Pi stop blinking, and we're good now. And then we'll start unplugging things, trying to get the back panel set up. Okay, that's that. We'll pull some cables out of the pie here. Pull some cables out of this side. We'll sort of just keep that in there for now. I think I'm gonna just remove this panel because I'm probably going to need to get back in there. All right, power wire. Probably gonna need to get back in there, and I just want to have easy access. So I'm gonna pull this off quickly. We'll just keep that safe somewhere else. I need to get a 90-degree USB cable for the Kraken. So I'll make that order sometime today, and it'll be here sometime this week. I'll be transparent to you all. But this cable here doesn't really fit the way that I have this, and I can't necessarily move this down anymore. Maybe I can move it down towards the pie. Maybe I can move the board down, like modify the bracket to move it down, I don't know, maybe 5-10 millimeter ish, but that'll make the connections very tight to the cable channel, and you may not be able to get those clips on there. So I'm not a fan of that, but I can move it this way to have better access to these heater ports, which I will most likely have to do anyway. So yeah, we'll redesign those. That's just unfortunate. Whatever, we'll figure it out in CAD. But sweet, we'll mount this onto the back of the machine. Let's just move some stuff and things. Put that there. Okay. So let's get you over to the desk. All right. The thing that we did was remove the tool board. So before I lose the screws and throw things around them, add this back to the machine. And just like that, right? Add this back to the machine, and then we'll turn this big boy around and get onto some more wiring, or as much as we can get in the time that we have left. We've got roughly an hour before I got to be done. Come on, Butterfingers. Yeah, I'm wondering why they didn't choose to use CAN bus on this. I think you could. It would make your wiring a little bit cleaner. Because right now I'm wondering how we connect this all the way back to the Kraken. Do we just use data lines? I mean, there are four outputs from the board, like in the toolhead sort of configuration side of things. But I'm wondering how the, like why not CAN bus and things like that. We've still got to connect the thermistors and the heaters. I've got to figure out how to configure these tool boards for PT1000s, or if they're even capable. I'm not sure if that's even a thing. I just knocked the heat set off the driver. And replug in our extruders. Cool, that's that. And we can flip this around. Okay. Try to get you guys the best shot possible. So if you need close-ups or anything like that, just shout in the chat. Okay. Man, wins me every time. Okay. So you're seeing kind of a close-up there. We'll get you down a little bit. Here's where we want to be. in that area is where you're going to see things. Put you back on this page. All right. So the way that it has us do this is there are 4 holes, one behind the cutout there. There's another holes here. We're just going to use M6 hardware through the case and into the back panel. So case sort of sits on there like so. All of those holes should line up. If they don't line up, you have your back panel on in reverse. So you need to swap it around. So that goes like that. I've already got the hardware prepped. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, I had to print some washers just because I wanted washers. And we will see if the bolts are long enough to accept that. So they're up in this corner, and my bracket for the octopus is already starting to interfere a little bit there. It makes it really tight to get in that hole. I don't know that I accounted for the size of this tool, or sorry, the size of the head of the screw here when I built the bracket. Ooh, maybe I barely did. Yeah, so there's just enough space to get that screw in there. And what I'm going to do is kind of hang this and make sure that the screw is actually long enough. I think it is. But I need to get through the panel all the way and still have enough to put a washer and nut, and I believe that I do. So you won't be able to see screwing this on the other side, but you can watch me do it from over here. Try to hold that panel like so. And not to scratch the hell out of the panel. I'm gonna just put this bottom corner one in as well so that it can help me hold that in place while we do the rest of these. So these ones up top are a little tight. I'm just gonna use the tool as an extension to put that in place. My fingers are too big to get in there. A little tight back there. And then bottom corner over here. Luckily, all the holes line up. Happy did a wonderful job at cutting these with the holes the right size and in the right location. Always happy to see that. All right, then we'll start to do a few of these. Everyone's using nylock nuts. One thing that I didn't really like is that they are silver. So they stand out a little more than they would if they were black or they had a cover over them. So I'm going to design and print some covers for these so that they don't stand out as much. I did print the washers I made in black ABS to sort of hide those, but the head of the hex nut or the lock nut is still silver. I'm just putting on loosely with my fingers, and then we'll come back with a tool to tighten that down. Thanks for the stream, it really helps. Ready to work on your 500? Have I considered LDO Kraken stepper motors? The Kraken is here. So we are using the Kraken. Oh, you're talking, okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood the question. I have considered the Kraken motors. I have the knockoff, I don't want to say knockoff, that's not the right term. I have the alternate version of those. Let's see, they're right here. So I have the Honey Badger version of those. I have considered these. The problem you run into is that the shaft on these particular ones are 8mm. And everything on the RatRig is built for 5mm. So if the Devil Design Kraken motors are 5mm shaft, you could totally use that. I had considered that, but I don't have any. Had I thought ahead a little more, or I had a little more money in the budget, I would get the Kraken motors. Those are $50 each motor. And then I have, you know, 4 motors in the kit here that came from RatRig that I don't have a project for, so I'd have extra motors. And I already have a dozen or more extra motors. I didn't need more, so I'm just using what I have. But then too, I think on this particular build, it'd probably be a little overkill. The IDEX nature of this means I'm probably not gonna make it a speed demon, and that's what the Kraken motors are sort of for. On a 500 build like you're talking about, they totally make sense, especially with a single tool head, because you have a lot of distance to travel and you could actually get up to speed on something like that. For this one, it's a 300 and it's IDEX. So it'd sort of be a little bit of a, I don't want to say a waste, but a waste to do it on this build. But I encourage you to do that if you're interested in it and you have the budget for it. I mean, if you're buying a 500, I would assume you do. The one with the 8mm shaft is going to need custom mounts. We're using Mandela Roseworks CNC mounts. They're not drilled for the bearing supports for an 8mm shaft. So that's why. But yes, we definitely considered it. I just need a tool to hold these X nuts in place. So I have a 10mm box end wrench, and that's what I'm using to hold the nut while I tighten this down. We're just going a little more than snug. We don't want to dent the panel. I'm using an ACM back panel, and I don't want to, you know, put significant dents in it. That's one of the reasons I chose to print washers. It's not called out in the manual to use washers, and they don't provide any. So I printed my own out of ABS to protect the panel a little bit. And I'll have to go back and make covers for these as well, so we don't see that hardware as easily. There it is. All right, good to go. Maybe with IDEX travel is less, but the weight of the gantry with IDEX won't overload the steppers. I mean, it's designed with the motors that it comes with. So the Kraken motors weren't a thing until recently, and the motors are capable of 2.5 amps. The Kraken motors are capable of 3 amp. It's not very far apart. Also, if you're going to run the IDEX, you need to have what RatRig is calling the hybrid setup. So you have additional Y motors to compensate for some of that. In short, what I'm saying is it should be fine. So we just put that on there. What's it having us do? I know now we start routing some wires. We get through all that. This is what we did this morning on stream. Cool. Amjed, I think that's how you say it. Amjed Alatis. I hope I'm saying your name right. But I'm glad that helps you, man. So we'll do this Y in stop part. That's kind of where we left off. And that's just running from the back, from the front of the machine to the back of the machine. It's having to do a 2000mm cable. Let's find that. We do have the wiring kit here for the motors. So this is for a 400. That is for a, oh, so that's a V-Core4 400. That's the completely wrong. I don't know how I mixed this up, but this is for the other machine. That's not even for this one. That is why I was super confused. Okay. Somehow I mixed up my kits. This is what we need for the V-Core4. So when you get a kit, it'll say wiring kit. It's not what you think. It's not the wiring for the tool head and all that kind of stuff. It's wiring for the motors. So there are motor wires here. And I'm seeing only 3. And then you have this cable times 3. I believe these are for your end stops. So you have one here for the X, which is a little bit shorter. And you have one for the Y, which is a little bit longer. Then you have your tool head wiring. So there are some X end stops in here as well. So it tells us to use the 2 meter one. This looks to be the longest of the 2 that they gave me. So just carefully cut these zip ties off and see what we got. I think this is 2 meters. It might be 3 meters. It feels very long. Yeah, I think that's the 3 meter. We'll try the other one here. Yeah, you gotta be careful when you're cutting these with flush cutters. You don't want to nick that wire at all. So I just find where there's a slight space in between wires, and I just barely cut through and then sort of break it the rest of the way off of there. That feels much more like a 2 meter cable than the other one. The other one I was full wingspan, could not get it to go. But it's saying connect the cable to the in-stop module as shown. We will do that. I think what I'm gonna do is spin this around once again so you guys can see how I route all of the wiring. And then what you won't see is just pushing it all the way through. We'll spin it around on the next portion to be able to show you where we're plugging things in. So just give me a second here. We'll spin this around again. If there is one tip or tool that I could give you if you're building this, is that a Lazy Susan would be nice. If you're talking about building a 500, you're gonna need a big Lazy Susan, but that would be helpful. You're spinning this thing around a lot like I have been doing. It's almost too big for my work table here, but it's like sort of halfway. The feet sort of halfway are on the granite. Cool, so we're going from this front left corner here back through. My end stop is right here. And it just tells us to put it in. It doesn't tell us to install it necessarily anywhere, but the end stop goes from this corner. You can kind of barely make it out on camera. Let's see. So it's coming from here and then running up along the back underneath this left motor. So sort of under here and then through this hole right here. Thanks for the sub, Brett. Thank you all. If you haven't subscribed to the stream or liked the stream, go ahead and do so. It helps out. I'm gonna press these grommets all the way through. Forgot to do that once we put the case on, but they go through both the back panel and the case. They're long enough to do that. I was wondering why they were so long when I first printed them out, but now it makes sense. They go through the back panel and the case, not just the... I did have to size mine up. I think I added 5%, printed them at 105%. The original ones I printed were a little loose in the holes themselves. These fit much better, so they're a little tighter in the hole. And that may be individual to, just my panels. So I'd recommend just measuring out the holes in your panels to make sure your grommets reach the way that they are supposed to, or fit the way they're supposed to. Sorry. So it tells me to do that. It doesn't really tell me where to route it just yet. We'll go back to the Chrome here, see what they want us to do. Tells us to prepare the clips. I've printed a ton of these. I printed them in green. And so we'll just insert them as needed. Cool. So here it's got us plugging into whatever port. In stop 3 wire cable. Route the cable, place them inside, 4 wire clips. What do the comments say here? 61 should read step 46. Okay. Shorter cable. 2000 is way too much. Too long. Okay. I mean, it doesn't seem too long from what I can tell, but we're going through this hole on the right towards the board. I wonder why all this is grayed out. Like, I feel like it should be darker, but anyway, so we're going through the bottom of the Y extrusion. They want us to use 4 clips there. And just grab a few more of those. I don't know how many of these things I printed. I think I did like 40. And I hope that they are not too small and they fit right. And then behind that left motor and then through the hole there, probably using 2 or 3 more clips in that rear crossbar. We'll get some more there and then we'll route that cable accordingly. All right, so it's here, coming up through the bottom channel and back. All right, the way that I like to do it is I'll put one initially at the front, and this is going to be hard for you all to see, but I'm just doing a clip here at the front. Yeah, and those actually fit pretty nice. So I've just got it going on top of the Z-arm in-stop or rail in-stop here, and kind of up under where I want it to be, and then I'll pull it tight to that corner by just using the cable clip. So I'm just pushing that to the front corner there like that to keep that very tight up against this. I don't want the gantry coming forward and snagging that cable at all. So just pushing that into the corner as much as possible, and then I route it back. And at the far end, back towards the motor, I'm going to add another in-stop and try to get that into the corner as much as I possibly can. Without, you know, pinching the wire and not allowing it to move, right? And then down the center, I'll just add 2 more where I think it makes sense. I'm just adding a couple more in there to keep that cable up into the channel. Like so. Okay. And now that's in the Y channel, we can do behind the motor. So behind the motor here, and that's going to just sort of rest. Move this stuff out of the way. That's going to just sort of kind of rest behind the motor. So it's important to have this back corner like jammed up in there as much as you can. And then on the exit side of that, I'm going to put another sort of clip as close to that bracket as possible so that it holds that end stop up against the motor and not sag down, and basically just make it look as nice on the routing side as possible, like that. Okay, so it holds it up tight against the motor bracket, and then it goes through the hole right there and out the back. And so we'll just push that up in the channel, and I'll put probably another clip right there, and that'll be good enough for what we need. Like that. So just push that over towards where it enters into the hole, and just like that. And there's our X end stop. It can always be cut to length, rather to soldering another wire. Yeah, I know you can't see this right now, but for me, it's not too long. It looks like it is probably the right length. My board is not an octopus, so that's a little different, but it is the right size for what I need. I'm looking at it though, and I'm knowing that I need to label it. I wish I had some of those little clips that are provided with certain other kits. They're like little yellow clips that you clip onto the wire. I don't have any of those. but I do have a label maker, so I think either that or I'm going to use these printed labels. So these printed labels. Let me clean up here so we don't get too cluttered. I have these printed labels that I can use. So Z left and Z left stepper. And I printed these on the Centauri carbon back when I had it. I pick it up from my buddy tomorrow. I let him borrow it for a couple of weeks to try it out and play with it. And we just have different different labels that sort of clip onto the different wires. They're likely overkill. You don't need to do this, but I thought they looked nice. So that's what we're gonna do. Need to pull them all out of here. There's a lot. This is from a user on printables who did these. There's a large one and a smaller one, and they just sort of clip together. So that's why you're seeing duplicates of these. I'm just trying to match them up. And so as wires come through, we can just add these labels on. What do we got? Cool fan, left step, right step. There's a lot of labels, guys. I just printed them all on one plate, and we did a simple filament swap about, I don't know, after the first layer. Still going? Yeah, still going. We've got about maybe 20 minutes or so, and then we'll call the stream. All right, so there's our Y in stop. That's the one we need. But we will likely need the rest of these eventually, so I'm going to pull these out and organize them as well. How'd the yard work go, projects in Dad's garage? Get it done? Left stepper. Y2 right goes there. X end stop there. Extra D. Really not sure what that means. Hot end heat. That one. Should have probably printed 2 of those. And then I think this is our last piece. Right. Okay. Y and stop. This is the one we're doing right now. I'm just adding this. And the way these sort of work is like you have this one here, and it's the large one. And you have the small one. They sort of go around the wire and just slide into one another like that. And so regardless of how you look at it, it's got what you are trying to say. So I'm just do that to the wire here. And they have a clipping detail to it. So once you slide them into where they need to be, they clip into one another and they don't easily come off. And they rotate around and do the thing. So there's one. Going back to the rest of this, let's see how far we can get in about 10 minutes. And then we'll spend the last few minutes sort of wrapping the stream and talk about the plan for next week and what happens and whatever else. All right, 48. It's slightly different. I think I need to go to 50. But I still have these as well. Hybrid, is it different? It's got us placing them in different spots. Maybe that's the difference. Yeah. So if you were doing just the normal core XY, you'd do motor 1 and 2, or 0 and 1 for that matter. Over here, it wants us to use different, but again, I'm not using the octopus and I want to take advantage of the bigger. So I'm still going to do 1 and 2 for this build with a Kraken. So I'm going to set it up like step 49 right here for my left and right motors. So using this as our example, motors just come in and go through their respective holes. One thing I did add is I have these additional thermistors that you can screw to basically anything. And that's why you see this extra cable here. I have an example of what that looks like. Where did I put it? I bought a bag of these. I think I got 10. Yeah, here we go. So this is just a simple thermistor. So it comes in a bag like this. Comes like that. So you have a JST connection on one side. You have sort of a ring connection on the other end. And you just attach this to anything. You can use it as a chamber thermistor. I have them attached to the motors themselves to be able to register motor temperature. Why? I don't know. I thought it was a great idea. And I'll be able to tell how hot my motors are getting based on what we're doing. As far as because we are running 48 volt. It's going to be enclosed, and it's probably going to be pushing the speed limits that make sense for the quality I want. And so because of that, the motors may get a little hot. So adding these on there will give me some real-time monitoring of that, and I can set in Clipper different flags or warnings or whatever to be able to take advantage of that temperature readout. I'll also use one or two of these for chamber temps. I'll put one up high, one down low, and that way it can average out what the chamber temperature will be. And I got a bag of them. I think I ordered 10 or 12 of these. They were really cheap when I ordered them. I have no idea what they're going to be now if you were to try to get some on AliExpress. But I added them over to our motors, so they have readout on left and right. I assume that the top will be the same, so I didn't add any to these top motors, but these two I did. And again, we'll add some up here for the chamber and then down low for the chamber as well. But these motor wires are definitely going to be too long once we route this into the electronics box. Because you can see I love that they added additional length, but it's going to be too long for the short run that we're doing here. And that is tight to get through there, but it does go through with the connection on. I thought for a second there, I thought I was going to have to take the connection off to be able to run that. That goes through like so, and then we'll do the additional thermistor that I added as well. And that goes through. And I could see why they didn't have us add those clips yet in the manual, because you need to take them out to add the motor wires. I had not considered that. So I'm just going to try to run these as cleanly as possible and try to use the same clip up in there. It's going to go like a 90 degree. I have the length on the wire to do so. So we'll just do it that way. Got to keep that as clean as we can. It's going to have me do the same on the other side, so I will do that on the other side. Top are probably coming through this top hole here, but we'll see. Comes out like that. So as we're wrapping up the stream here for this particular portion, I am curious what you guys think about this build so far. It's a little bit more complicated than what I'm used to. Just being IDEX, the amount of wiring, it's a different style as well. I've not built a ton of RatRigs before. I did the V-Minion, and that's a little different. It uses a lot of large hardware that I'm not used to using. And just the process and the design language and things are different than what I'm used to as well. What are your guys' thoughts? I know Steven Machado has built a RatRig. Anybody else? because we still have the V-Core4 that I have not built yet, that I either need to build or sell off or something. It's got to get either built or out of my way. Been creating a lot of space in the garage for all sorts of things to try to make room for more projects, better setup, etc., etc. And in so doing, I discovered I have this V-Core4 that I don't really use all that much. So yeah. Okay, we have the hybrid motors next. These are the ones up top here. These are going to run across the beam in this channel here and then out the back, just like we thought. And we'll get those through quickly. And then we'll probably call the stream. So if you guys have any questions before we wrap up, we've got maybe 5-ish minutes to go. If you have those questions, I'll take it. If you don't, that's fine too. Okay, let's see. We have X and stops, Y left, Y right. This is the Y left. We'll add this in here. So just adding some labels like we had before. Like I was saying, if you guys have questions about the build or what we're going to do next or whatever, any suggestions for the channel or the build, I am open to all of that feedback. And your Y2 right comes through here. As for me, I am enjoying this one. I always like to build, of course, but this one is different enough that it's tickling that little portion of my brain where I find it enjoyable, and I find it one of those draws that just makes me want to keep coming out here and spending hours doing this. But I can't. It's unhealthy. Gotta take breaks. All right, so putting these labels on will help later. And we'll just do a little bit of connections with the clips at the top here. Trying to clean up some of this. So wires go out the back of the, what am I saying? Back of the motor towards the panel. Helps to keep it visually clean. But you are going to see a bit of that wire as it comes across. It's just the way that it's going to be. So do your best to hide what you can. And then as it comes across the top of the rail here, that back extrusion, try to tuck it up against the cable routing as best you can. But you're definitely going to see something in there. You could see a little bit of it here, see a little bit of it there. If that bothers you, you could cable wrap that, but I'll tell you, functionally, it does not matter. Functionally, it's going to work as long as it's plugged in correctly. So once we get these tied down, we'll go ahead and call the stream for the day. I need to seriously do some work on this stuff after stream to make some progress. We are on part 7 this week. I think we have part 8 next week, which is a little bit longer than what I expected. I thought we were going to be able to do this in about 6. That didn't turn out to be the case. A little more involved of a build. Progress has been a little bit slow, I guess. Well, that's because we're trying to get it right. And we still have to do firmware setup and some other things. which is always a pain. I mean, we could spend hours on firmware some days. There we go. Slide that over, try to tuck things away the best that we can, and I just pulled it out of there. Yeah, it turns out if you pull on the wire, it'll knock your clips out of the extrusion. So cool. That is all together in there. We've got some slack in the cable so that we can tuck things away. Like that. Okay. That's about the best we're going to be able to do with what we have and the way that they design things. So I still need to get all of the belts on. Love it, looking great. Thanks, TP. All right, Booty, if you gotta leave, man, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for always hanging out every single week. We've gotten through that. Next, we need to do stepper motors that go to the Z. I mean, it's just routing them through all to the case. I think what you guys really want to see is plugging things in, looking at what the firmware looks like. All of this routing of wires is a little less than most folks care about. So we'll get through the rest of this on the margins off stream throughout the week, and then next week I think we'll get to probably firmware, I think. So all of this wiring I'll plug in. We'll do a quick overview on what that looks like. So I'll move the camera around, show you guys what I chose to do as far as routing, and I'll keep a little log of what we plugged in and to what location, so we could talk through that. That way it'll free us up to be able to do a little bit of firmware setup, which I think is probably the more intimidating part of a build like this. Okay, so from all of us over here in California to all of you, enjoy your week ahead, guys. Thanks for hanging out again on another Sunday. We'll be back same time, 07:15 next week. We'll recap all of the stuff that I did. I am hard up, promise, going to get through a lot of this wiring to set us up in a better location to be able to talk about firmware and get into what that looks like and how I do it and kind of my thought process. Can't promise that it's going to be smooth, and I can't promise we won't have issues with that, but I'll do my best to talk you through it and we can figure it out together, okay? So thanks for hanging out, all 21 of you. Appreciate every single person being here. Before we close down, make sure that you do subscribe and like the stream. It definitely helps things out as we get further. So we've got a couple more folks in here than we did last time. And so to all the new folks, thank you for being here. Welcome to the channel. We're going to build a RatRig together, and I appreciate all of you. Rob, see you later. All of those throwing emoji in the chat to finish it out. Thanks for hanging out for just about 3 hours now. Appreciate every single one of you. I'm going to go hang out with the family. Love you guys. Have a good week.